The Purple Heart is the medal that nobody wants, and it's going to be forever the weight that I carry that's a little too heavy. And that's just how it's going to be.
Hi, this is Bob Weiss. I'm the host of Shaking Your World. Cheers.
Folks, welcome home. Yet another fascinating episode at the Mighty Shakers in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Today we are here for a reprise visit with Dan Newberry. Dan has been involved in all sorts of interesting facets his entire life, but I would like to spend a moment talking about something that's far more recent that impacted us a bit as well. And last weekend, Dan, you were the Master of Ceremonies in so many ways for the Purple Heart Association. You are a recipient of a Purple Heart.
Yeah.
Thank you for your service.
Appreciate it.
Tell us the story, man.
About the Purple Heart or the event last
Anywhere
Saturday?
you want to go.
I think we can start with the event last Saturday that wrapped up right here. So I was approached by Andrea Paulson, who I think you had on the show, about hosting an event for Style Showcase. Style Showcase is a nonprofit that offers a platform for artists, photographers, models, so on and so forth. And when she approached me about it, they were looking for a venue, and I had mentioned the War Memorial, and we ended up locking down the War Memorial because it's a beautiful venue. And then from there, we had a special guest, guys, but we ended up having to do it on Purple Heart Day, and which I thought was kind of fitting how those stars aligned, me being a Purple Heart recipient. So it really tied in well with the event. And I am not one to really talk about my Purple Heart often.
Okay.
Most people don't know I have it. In fact, this is the first year in almost 2 decades that I actually displayed it in my home. So,
I'm reluctant to say this, but I can't help myself. You don't wear it on your sleeve, but you certainly do wear it on your hand.
I do have it on my hand.
Okay.
And the reason I have it on my hand, there's another person that got a Purple Heart that day, but that person didn't make it.
Okay.
And this is for him. So that's the story about it. So whenever somebody asks me about it, yes, I'm a recipient, but this is actually for TJ Carrillo, who didn't make it. And I tried to, as hard as I could, to save him, and it just didn't work out. So that's how it all started. So it was kind of being able to do that fashion show and tie that all in. It actually gave a little bit of levity to the day, where on the other side of it, it's a pretty solemn day for me.
Yes.
So it really kind of changed perspective, and it made me a little bit more grateful to be here, and the gratitude that I have for other people that either made the ultimate sacrifice or suffered wounds in combat. So.
Well, most importantly, you did this as a fundraiser for the organization as well. And you are also tied into another foundation that's very dear to you, to support the number of vets who pass on a daily basis at their own hands, right? So I want to speak a little bit about that and how they interplay together, I suppose.
Yeah, so Live for the 22 is another nonprofit that I'm the president for, and it's one of those organizations where it initially started just to provide gym membership. Okay. But over the past couple of years, and especially because the god-awful pandemic and all that crap that was going on, we kind of had to change our position a little bit on what we do offer. So we started offering more than just memberships. We started connecting veterans with valuable resources as well. So where we couldn't get them into the gym, but we could at least connect them with resources, even to start a business or whatever. And we're back to starting to try to provide gym memberships, and we're starting to slowly get back into fundraising again. We just kind of had to wait for everything to settle up.
Sure, you're a mentor for WIBIC, right? The Wisconsin Women's Business Initiative Corporation?
Yes, so they got awarded the Veterans Business Outreach Center grant. Okay. And what that grant is, it's the program that offers the Boots to Business classes and Boots to Business Reboot classes. So I'm the director for that program. So I have all of Wisconsin, and I share responsibility in Minnesota. And that's a really good program. And we have gotten the success rate just here in Wisconsin for veterans that come to us is outstanding. We actually had a WIBIC client and a VBOT client at the fashion show with a table set up.
Wonderful.
So it's really unique how everything kind of just ends up tying together.
I well recall how vets coming back from Vietnam were treated very poorly. and I would work on the assumption that things are a bit better for you coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan than they were at that point. But still, you're not given the respect that you really ought to be given for defending the country and for going out and really supporting our way of life.
We're often marginalized.
Okay.
So as far as we're treated today, it is because of the Vietnam veterans that we have the benefits that I do.
Okay.
So I am forever grateful to the Vietnam veterans. When I was growing up as a kid, my uncle served in Vietnam. He was in the Navy, and it was always stressed to me to have respect for our service members, regardless of what society tells you, because your opinions and everything that you have in this country is literally because of our service members. So I've always had a tremendous amount of respect for the service. And then now I look at the VA benefits that I get, and I look at the health care that I get, and all of that is because of those Vietnam vets that were completely treated like trash. Although there's still some negative stereotypes that follow us.
Right.
So there's this, when I was initially getting out, when I first got out of the military, I said, hey, I remember I applied for a job at Woodman's grocery store, and the manager said I wasn't worth $13 an hour. And that's one of those things that it continues to ring in my head every time I make a move and I get a little bit of success. I'm like, how's that for $13 an hour? So my whole thing is really letting veterans know those stereotypes aren't true, and you don't have to regress into them either. Just because you have PTSD doesn't mean you're less valuable to the workforce. You know, you can still operate and you can still do really good things in your community. So,
by and large, those vets that we've had that have worked here, or we've been associated with in different ways, are truly a step above just the average person walking in the door looking for a job. They understand how the process works. They understand the chain of command. They understand what a mission or a duty might be, whether that's simply prepping in the kitchen or something else. They get that compartmentalized that perhaps a lot of other people walking around just don't get. And because of obviously what they did when they were in, they have to get it.
And that's one of those things where you are mission focused, right? So when you come out in the workplace, when you get out, you may not have a direction yet, but getting offered a good job with a decent wage can go a long way for a service member. So like for me, I got my footing when I got my first job. I was working a corporate job. I was working at FedEx, and I started to see my value there, and I was getting promoted just because of my work ethic was so much different than everybody else's. And I had this operational mindset where most people don't get from, no offense to anybody that went to college, but you don't get an operational mindset from sitting in a classroom. You get that from experience. And so that showed, and I progressed quickly in that company.
Well, I'm glad you're talking about this because the opportunity to have a job, and especially a job that is going to allow you to have shelter, raise your family, and afford things, is crucial to what we are. Now, you and I have talked about the political situation before, and perhaps you or I might have aspirations, and perhaps not. But certainly, for my mind, education is one of the imperative things, whatever that might be, whether it's going to be in a welding shop or whether it's going to be going to college or something else. But you also have to be able to supply a means for people to get to a job and to also have that type of awareness heightened with the employer that these are candidates that you want to talk to. So getting a little bit off kilter for a moment, if you were to matriculate and to run for office or something, how would you try to create something or change that avenue, that corridor, to expand opportunities?
Well, we have a lot of funding going to programs that aren't really beneficial, that don't have an impact.
For example,
let's use the trolley.
Okay. Let's do that.
Let's use the trolley, whatever that thing is, right? Everyone trips over it and motorcycles crash, okay? That money you could have easily put into entrepreneurship accelerator programs and opened up new businesses right here in Milwaukee. But if you walk along this street, how many buildings are empty?
A lot.
Right. So why aren't we doing...
Even before the pandemic.
Even before, right? So why aren't we taking more of a responsibility into...
re-energize neighborhoods, re-energize the business.
And here's the thing, strong businesses build strong communities.
Right.
And that's not a lie, that's a mathematical fact. And so if you could take some sort of funding and put it towards entrepreneurship and incubation programs and accelerator programs, that would be great. But what's happening is funding gets diverted to these pet projects, right? and that benefit really only that politician. It doesn't benefit the community whatsoever.
Right.
Or maybe a special interest group. But the big special interest group is all of us, not just these people or that person or that underserved community. The entire country is underserved right now. We've got how many people without jobs? Right? We've got how many people that are hiring? But instead, here's an extra X amount of dollars.
Here's your stipend, sit on your butt.
Yeah, yep.
Don't engage. Don't be part of it.
Don't say anything. You shut your mouth.
Don't be productive.
Right.
Right.
Right. So encourage people to be actually progressive and productive.
Well, there's a former Navy SEAL who is running against, Ron Kind, congressman, who just, of course, decided he's not going to run anymore,
Sure.
right? So I think that this is certainly an opportunity for people that do have not just a military background, but a successful military background. And with success, there comes a great price, obviously, and you are certainly part of that. I would think that if you were to decide to follow through and to indeed run for an office, whatever that
Sure.
might be, that incredible avalanche of goodwill towards the military would help you tremendously right now.
I'd like to think so. And I think as far as my political aspirations, I have appeal on both sides of the aisle. I don't cater to nonsense. I just don't get involved with it because I think it's not productive. What I do look at is how our government is the relationship with the people. And it's a really poor relationship right now. And it's gotten that over the years of just toxic politics. There's been so many things in the news over the past couple years between the last two candidates and everything. Let's be honest, we need real people to start running again, not these legacy politicians, not these multi-billionaire, you know what I mean?
I say it all the time, we need statesmen, not politicians.
Exactly. And the truth of the matter is, if someone like me were to run, we've become so polarized and we have this vision of what a politician should be, it almost makes it impossible for someone like me to run because admittedly, I'm not perfect. And I stand by that. I'm unapologetically myself, but one thing about me is I legitimately care about people. I don't care about their skin color. I don't care about this. But what's happening is the government's not taking care of the people anymore.
Right.
And they're not taking care of them in the right way. They're not offering programming that helps people in these underserved communities get a better education and start their own businesses or get gainful employment. Instead, they just funnel more money into these schools that don't do anything.
Right.
It's literally become a 8-hour babysitting place, but there's no education. So instead of these this nonsensical education that we have going, like my kids, I have kids in school right now. The things they are taught don't apply to the real world whatsoever.
Well, we're not educating anymore.
No,
We're indoctrination is something else.
Exactly. And they're leaving nonprofits, these little nonprofits, be the ones that pick up the slack, to be the ones to offer grants, to offer funding, to do all these things that actually empower people. The government doesn't empower anymore. It strips away everything from you, bit by bit by bit, until you're dependent.
Well, social engineering is rampant, and we had Tom Holland yesterday, former super heavyweight champion in full contact karate, my sensei, and we talked about what he's experienced over the last 30 or 40 years with kids coming into class, and how really so many people today look at martial arts as babysitters. Right? I'm going to park my kid here for an hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever. Doesn't matter what they come out with, but here you go. Here's my kid. I can't control him. Here he is, right? Rather than when I was in the system, there was a respect that you had at home that the parents actually interacted with you, and you took that into society with you. This is how you act. This is how you don't act, right? So we've lost that touch with parents interacting as well, so it's no surprise that schools then also have taken a whole different course than what they should be doing, which is education.
Right.
So one thing that I've realized being in Europe the number of times I have been is that they have a very militaristic society, and of course they've had 1,000+ years of warfare all the time and conquer and conquest. So we have been exempt from that with a couple of exceptions here, right? Obviously the War of Independence, our Civil War, and then other wars that we fought off our shores. But we have not paid the price that they have for the amount of time that they have, and perhaps that's the reason why they have a better foundation for the role of the military post-actions than we do here, maybe.
We are very sheltered here, and I've lived in a third world country, and I see what they go through. A lot of what we're going through today is we have an entire generation that's come up without a purpose. So when I was growing up at 18 years old, I watched the Twin Towers crumble in active terrorism. I watched our economy collapse. I turned 21 in the middle of a firefight in Baghdad. So I got to see all these things that are just an idea in a classroom now. And that's why we're having the problems we have. We are creating issues that don't really exist to give people a purpose. When you start pinning races against each other and political sides against each other and all of this, you're just creating that. You're creating these problems. I don't want to bring it up, but let's look at the George Floyd issue. That was awful. That was terrible. That should have never happened. Regardless of what the crime was, that was wrong, and no one disagreed there. But what people disagreed with was the individuals that couldn't relate to that, that live in a comfy suburb, decided to go out in the streets and burn down businesses. Now they're destroying their own communities, and for what?
I could not agree more. So as we're, hopefully turning the corner with some things, we have some sense of tranquility right now. Things have calmed down.
Yeah.
People are not rioting the streets like they were last year.
Yeah. I was actually worried for your business during that time.
You weren't alone. So now that we have this presumptive sense of tranquility, how can things be adjusted and better with the existing system? I mean, obviously there has to be external change, but with the existing system, how could things be better with no great loss or deprivation to anyone?
Truth be told, my generation needs to get off the fence. We need to get off the fence and get into office. My generation, we need to start running for office. We come from a unique generation where we didn't have the internet growing up. We didn't have all this, but we grew into it. We also had the hardship of a poor economy, war, and everything else. My generation, what we would call the older millennials, have a good foundation, and we should be getting off the fence now and start running for office and changing policy for the better.
So since we're on this topic, how old are you?
37.
37 years old. Okay, you've seen a lot in your 37 years. And you made an impact with your students as well, and the people that you have worked with and progressed with their career in mixed martial arts, right?
Yep.
Okay. And what do you see taking place with that world? Because before you answer, let me say that from my perspective, and I don't spend a lot of time watching this anymore. I tuned out a while ago.
Sure.
But it seems like, and I talked to this with Tommy yesterday, it seems that there's a lot of thuggery in some of these equations.
Yeah.
And it's way away from what martial arts was when I was involved with
Yeah,
this.
it's become the fight game.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, it's more of a thug fight game. You're not looking at Ali and Foreman. You're looking at something completely different.
So I got trained by one of the most prominent boxing coaches here in Milwaukee, over at UCC, Izzy Acosta, also known as Shorty.
Israel, sure, yeah.
Yeah. And the one thing that I learned there was always about respect. I also had the opportunity to travel the country and work at several other gyms. And the one thing that I was brought up in with boxing and mixed martial arts was always to be respectful of your opponent. And with my students, if you watch, for example, Matthew Leonard's first fight, he knocked the guy out in 55 seconds. He didn't go nuts and talk crap to the guy. He went and he took a knee until he was up and back up and went up and shake his hand. Me as a coach and a manager, I have absolutely zero tolerance for disrespect of your opponent. You're two people playing a sport. This isn't, that's it.
Right.
It's a contest.
Right.
And if you lose gracefully, and that's it. So we take big pride, especially at Nova, in making sure that everybody's respectful and they're professional at all times.
What is Nova?
So Nova Gyms is a mixed martial arts gym in Oak Creek that I'm the head MMA coach at. Okay. Which to be frank, I didn't ever think that I would be coaching MMA. I trained in it, practiced it, competed, the whole nine, but I like to teach. So then once I realized that it's just my days are past, I started showing up and just helping out with the team. And one thing we learned is they had another coach that was there, and he just didn't have really the mechanics, if you will, to really be a good coach. So the team asked if I would step in, and I did. And we've been really successful since. I attribute that to a lot of the guys and their dedication. But there's times where they all call me dad because I teach them to have respect for everybody and so on and so forth. And like on Sunday, we're having a team cookout. It's just, I want to make sure that they always have that good morale. And I don't want them to get involved in the silly face-offs and politics and all that nonsense.
So all these things obviously are interconnected, and that's kind of the way I'm leading you in different directions right here, but they all come back together for a couple of things. And much of that goes along with being a good American, right? How you comport yourself, how you interact in society, how you interact with your family, other people, friends, whatever the case might be.
Yeah.
To be a good person is paramount in so many ways. And the dividends and benefits are beyond calculation.
You get out of society exactly what you put into it. There is no gray area there. Whatever, if you invest into people and you take your time and you don't expect anything in return, karma happens. You put good things out in the world, good things are going to come back. That's why I always say, like, regardless of where somebody grew up or what their skin tone is or whatever they believe politically, religiously, just respect them, respect their opinion, and you can have a conversation. You can differ, that's okay, but be kind. And I think that's the most important thing I've always tried to do, regardless of whoever I've met. Let's just be kind until you prove otherwise.
Could not say it better myself, so kudos to you. Now, with the style showcase that took place last week, had to be a lot of fun. It had to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was great. You know, I love the fashion industry. And I got roped into it on accident. And it seems like I'm like Forrest Gump, I think, and I just end up in these precarious situations.
I mean, before you say that, let me say something to you, because from time to time I hear people say, oh, you're so lucky to have what you have, Bob, and this and this. And I'm thinking, luck to me really is being in the right place at the right time and being prepared for those situations and being aware of things around you and having to plan B, C, D, whatever the case might be. So I kind of look at you, and you and I have talked before about this, so I understand the background, how it has worked so well for you, but you've been prepared for every step of that. You might not have expected doing that, but you were prepared in the eventuality.
Right. The minute that something comes my way, I immediately start planning. You know, plan A, plan B, plan C. I've always got a strategy going into everything that I do. And when I got asked for my initial fashion show, it was a lingerie show. Now, mind you,
Camisole, what were you wearing? It's, no.
There's video out there. It actually caused problems in one of my jobs. But you know, when I got approached, I thought that it'd just be like a kind of a funny deal. You go out there in some boxer shorts, whatever. Well, little did I know that every single designer picked me to wear a garment, so I was in like every run. And was I prepared for that? No, but like once I got there and they told me what I was doing, I just looked at Andy Riggs, who roped me into the whole deal. And plus, it's for charity, it's for breast cancer or cancer survivors. So of course I'm going to do this. And I looked at Riggs. I'm like, well, here we go, you know. And I just went out and did my thing. And then next thing you know, I've been involved with the industry here and there ever since. So
fantastic. And again, you know, there are good people everywhere. I mean, there's a lot of bad people too, but there are good people everywhere. And when you approach things with a certain perspective and a certain mindset that you're looking for a greater good, a greater goal, it's easier to find those people, gravitate towards those people, have them gravitate towards your project, and to make the thing much more successful, right?
Yep.
Okay.
And I look at our community the same way. That's how I deal with anything in the community. Like, I don't care what it is. If this is going to benefit somebody and help them or help a demographic or whatever, I'm one of those people, I'm not going to ask a million questions. I'm not going to, like, naysay it. I'm just going to ask, how can I help? And I think that's always worked for me, and, you know.
All right, so I'm going to continue dancing around this because that's just what I do. So the political field is crowded, no matter what position it might be right now. There are a ton of people, and some of them are just, frankly, pretenders. They have to know they're pretenders and posers, right?
Yeah, they're...
But there are a handful of people that actually have solid fundamental ideas, concepts, and a strategy. But that's the minority. And the amount of money that you have to raise today to launch a successful campaign is not insurmountable, but it is a big chunk of money.
Substantial,
Yeah.
For me, running,
if you were to,
I will. It's going to happen. But for me, timing is everything. There's a process to everything. As my wife will tell you, I'm Dan with the plan. Like, and there's going to be a time when I go out there and say, this is exactly what I'm doing. You know, when it first presented itself last year, it wasn't the time. There was so much nonsense going on between Biden and Trump and blah, 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 blah. It wasn't the time. Whatever I had to say was going to be overshadowed by a very polarizing. So our country needs to heal. In order for people to listen to what you have to say, they have to be in solid frame of mind.
Right.
We need to heal. We need to get past the pandemic stuff. We need to get past Crazy Joe. We need to get past Crazy Donald Trump. We need to get past all of that. And once that water's calmed down, that's when I'm going to throw my name in the hat, because then I'll be heard. I'm not just going to be some noisy politician. So for me, it's all about timing.
Okay. You're very fortunate to have a family that really supports you completely with this as well.
She didn't want me to run. So when I was initially got asked to run for that Senate seat, I mean, she came in, it was like late at night, she comes in crying, and she's like, I really don't want you to do this. You're gonna ruin everything that you've worked for. People are gonna only know you as this crooked politician, and you're not a crooked politician, you know? The only thing that's crooked about me is my nose, and like, and maybe a tooth or two.
And you earned that too.
Yeah, but like, I'm not, you know, out there trying to snake people for political position or power. If I'm gonna serve as a public servant, then I'm gonna serve as a public servant. You know, we've gotten, like I said earlier, we've ended up working for the government instead of the government working for us. You know,
nothing new here. If you think about the Roman Senate, for God's sakes, right? I mean,
well, we know what happened with Rome.
not to talk about gladiators if it's factual events, but there are bits and pieces, everything there. So anytime you have an emperor who comes out that thinks he's above the process, and they already have a Senate in place to represent the people in that republic, there are going to be issues, right?
Yep.
And we have become so close, a myriad occasions in this country, to having a standout political figure who thinks that they are above and beyond the fray for everything else.
Yep.
And that is disingenuous to the system, disingenuous to the people. And we have to find a way to not let that happen.
Well, that's got to come from, again, people of my generation to get off the goddamn couch. You know, everybody has turned to Facebook with opinions, but no one's taking their opinions to the voting booth. You know?
I do.
I mean, that's as simple as it gets.
So you've got a gig going on tomorrow. You're doing a little pitmaster situation.
No, that's September 5th.
September 5th, okay.
Yeah.
You are an incredibly talented cook in your own right.
Yeah.
And man, the things that you are posting that I see in social media are freaking solid.
Yeah.
So obviously that has to be, I look at cooking as therapy for me. I've done it forever, and for me, fortunately I'm not in the pit every day, but it is therapy. And I enjoy the bejeebers out of it. I enjoy making things for people and see the expression and the smile on their face. So I'm sure you're doing the same thing. And,
a labor of love.
What are some of your favorite dishes? What do you like to play with the most?
So my forte, like my go-to thing has been barbecue.
Okay.
It goes way back to when I was a kid.
Okay.
Before war, before everything. My
Sure.
dad was a truck driver.
Okay.
He was born in Grayford, Texas in 1939, and the first thing I ever learned how to cook was a southern dish, was biscuits and gravy. And then he taught me how to barbecue. And he gave me the family recipe of the barbecue sauce and everything. And then from there, I just grew into it. And I practiced and I practiced and I practiced. And no matter what's been going on in my life, I've always went back to the kitchen, regardless. And the
Solace, a place of solace.
It is. And you know what? The saddest I've ever been was when I was 179 pounds of pure muscle. I looked great, but I was so sad all the time. And I love cooking. And just like you, when I can give someone a beautiful, perfectly glazed rack of ribs and I see their face light up, that's where it's at. It really is the labor of love. Or you spend 18 hours on a good brisket, you know?
So when you're barbecuing, is it going to be beef? Is it going to be pork?
So this for the competition?
Or anywhere at all?
For me, I prefer doing beef.
Okay.
Texas barbecue, right?
Low and slow.
Low and slow, take your time. For the comp, we're doing beef and pork. We're doing a tri-tip and baby back ribs, which are both one of my specialties.
Lovely.
And it's really easy when you know how to manage a fire, you know? So it's gonna be good. This is one of those competitions where I was like, I'm not worried about it. But then September 18th, I got invited to go assist with a pro team in Bristol. So, but yeah, it's one of my secret little hobbies that I've slowly started to show people that have been doing this for years.
Nice. Very nice.
I love it.
All the myriad places that you've been, and aside from Milwaukee, of course, the little gem that we do have in this country. Aside from Milwaukee, what was your favorite place?
Savannah.
Can't argue with that. Well,
Savannah, Georgia. Savannah, Georgia. Everything about it. I think that's probably why I like this place so much too. Even before we met and became friends, I think this reminds me a lot of Savannah. The decor, the environment, the feel, especially on a warm summer day, you can't beat it.
Cool. Well, thank you for that, by the way. What's next for you? I mean, obviously, political situation, summer's off in the future. You've got all these marvelous foundations that you're working on. You're engaged every day. You're a busy SOB. And of course, you got 3 daughters, right?
Yep.
And you are incredibly busy. But what is next for you aside from cooking and everything else?
I think what's next for me is there's going to come a time where I'm going to have to close the Lift for the 22 chapter.
Okay.
And I think I'm doing more for the veteran community by helping them start businesses.
Okay.
I'm not just giving them a free gym membership. I'm giving them a way to feed themselves for the rest of their life.
Yep.
And that's been my dream career. And I have no complaints doing it. I'm allowed to I manage my own time. There's nobody bothering me. And so I really enjoy that. So I'll always keep that going. But then I think my next step is I would like to open up my own restaurant. So and be able to offer actually really good barbecue here in Milwaukee, because it just is non-existent.
Please do.
You know, so
Cool.
that's my next short-term goal.
This has been another marvelous chat, and I'd like to look forward to another one in the future.
Absolutely.
But any parting thoughts that you want to share now?
The Purple Heart is the medal that nobody wants, and it's going to be forever the weight that I carry that's a little too heavy. And that's just how it's going to be. But no, I think parting words, for those of you watching, if you have not come down to Shakers, you need to come down here. You've got to check out the 3-layer rooftop. So that's definitely the place to be. If you're looking for a good date spot, up on the rooftop.
Dan Newberry, this has been a delight again.
Absolutely.
Thank you, my
Thank
friend.
you.
Folks, those of you at home that have taken the time to watch this, I hope you enjoyed it. Any questions, you can hit me up at shakersmilwaukee@gmail.com. Most importantly, be good to your family, be good to yourselves, and it'll be a better place. Cheers.